Welcome to another Quantum Conversation, brought to you by AcousticHealth.com. I'm Loren Gailey, and I invite you to sit back as we enter the quantum realm, that space of the greater part of you. It is your connection to infinite possibilities, infinite potential, and infinite mastery. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We have a very special guest. This is a psychic angelic channel, Peter Hansen, who works closely with Archangel Gabriel. We're going to learn about his journey and his story. But most importantly, we're going to learn about the incredible support that we have right now to truly evolve on our ascension path and to take a higher perspective on all of the seeming challenges that we may have in this world that is changing very quickly. This is a beautiful year of change, and we can look out at the world and think that there's lots going on, but Peter brings such a unique perspective when we look at it from the higher realms. Let's welcome Peter Hansen back to the show. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Lauren. Thank you for having me, and I'm so excited to be back. So much has happened since I saw you last time, and it's like a daily change and expansion and transition that we're going through. So it's like total reset to realigning, upgrading, activating. It's just ongoing, and we're growing as much as we're allowing ourselves to be a part of that. And being in that driver's seat with you as well, it's like it's a gift. It's just magic.
Yes, and so I'd like to start there and just say I did a personal session with you. It was exquisite. The word confident comes out, or alignment actually, really is probably the better word, but there's a confidence that comes from that. And one of the things that you helped me see was I was in a place where it was like things were changing. My beautiful producer, who's been with me for years now, is going on her separate way into something that makes her heart sing. And so I felt a loss at that, but you helped me see it. You helped in an instant switch it into, we don't have to, it's like an opportunity to do things in a more streamlined way, or not in the old paradigm where it might be a challenge or a struggle. So that is really amazing. How, when you look at the world right now, and when you deal with all your clients day in and day out, what do you think the number one issue is that people are facing that you help them with?
It's interesting you asked that question, because it relates directly to the issue you had that day. Is the inner environment. It's the inner communication with the inside and the outside, the identities we all created, our human selves, that as we continuously raise in vibration and we gain access to higher and higher consciousness and knowledge and knowing within ourselves, and holding a higher frequency of love, then that old facade and those masks, that old identity, that separation that was between that before, that duality, that two voices, that multiple hats, multiple versions of ourselves, is falling apart, and we're coming back into that oneness, into that unified field of consciousness, where it's just we are our embodiment of our divine higher self, our soul self. We're speaking straight from the heart space, straight from what is the highest, the highest alignment with the divine, with what we want to create in the world. So it's like honoring the process, but also being the advocate, being the, walking your talk. So shifting from the outside to the inside, that's really like journaling is very helpful with that, with gain that inner alignment too, and learning to listen. Observing yourself is major, because there's all these programs and old conditions and belief systems that's just tick, 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 a little trigger, something, in our environment shift, and then we go into panic mode, or it could be fight and flight even, and because we're uncomfortable, if there's any kind of change, we can't control it. But really, it's not our true self that goes into panic, it's the human self that's based on that safety net of things being fixed or being, safe or not moving at all, like very limited in fact, where the other one is very expansive, and that opens up and clears room for new to enter. So looking at the world in a different way, in a different light, shifting everything, transmuting everything, not allowing that old to take over and run the show and bring you down the rabbit hole. And I know for you, just to not to get too personal, but this is not your first rodeo as well. So you've been practicing for many lifetimes before this one that put you in a unique position in this lifetime to process things faster, not allowing it to slow you down too much, but still not losing that experience though, as it's unfolding,
Yeah, it does seem like the ability to move through the things that we are dismantling happens quicker. And again, there's that word confidence, like we've got this, we can do it. It doesn't have to be so hard anymore. Well, I love what you say there. We are moving into unity consciousness, and it feels as if we can see. I wonder if our Zoom audience has some comments on this, because lately it seems like we can see our connection with each other so deeply, how we are all one, how we do affect each other on both a negative and a positive aspect. Like, okay, we do this and we can feel the good of that, but we can also see if there's something that's not optimal, we can also see how that affects everyone. So isn't that interesting? Would you say that that's part of the ascension process, or the veils that are being removed now? What's going on there?
Well, yes, and everything is quantum physics, so there's a quantum entanglement between all of us. One thing, but then also the universe is us, we are vibrationally in alignment with the golden age, with the higher frequencies, the waves, the solar flares coming in right now, the upgrades coming in. We created that too. We planned it in a certain way, the way our physical human body could handle that as much as possible, but not being too nice to us either, because it's not a long stretch, because we didn't decide, or we didn't choose that. So we wanted to be pushed into our, out of the comfort zone and into where we have to, you can say, be forced to make a shift and make a change, because it just shows us what's not working. And we need that. We need that as the physical being. We need that prove it first. We need to navigate those dimensions, and learning how to shift and to transmute that, how to shift our perspective, and always being in a very light vibration of unconditional love and no judgment. Because if we in judgment, then we just feed another fear, another old programming or belief system, so it's really about learning to listen is really the key. And that's the thing. Before, we were listening to the outside, we were listening to the media, we were listening to social media, to our parents, whoever it was, our partners, whatever it is, but now learning that we are actually the one who are sending out or projecting on the screen, so when we get things right in here in alignment, then everything on the outside starts to come in alignment too. And there's a little trial and error with that first. And then when we get the hang of it, then everything just starts to flow. And that's when we see, and that's when we get those small roadblocks, just to see if we are ready or if we really learned that lesson. And then as we progress and we expand and we learn our lessons and we become better at it, then it becomes much easier, and it's just flowing and it exponentially just expands us. And aligns us with that inner knowing and knowledge we didn't have access to before, because now we create room and we are operating from a unified field of consciousness where we can allow that light to come in, we can process that light, and we can allow that to shine through us as well. And that's the thing, when I work with people like yourself, I connect with your higher self, so you giving me the credit, but yes, I am the bridge. But it's your higher self I'm bringing through, that's speaking through me to you. And you asked for that. You hired me in a sense, like a soul contract, before you came into this lifetime, to be that mirror or be that channel, or allowing that yourself to hear yourself through that, or assisting you with redirecting yourself. And that's, again, it comes back to the one. It comes back to that you created all of this. And that's one of the biggest battles with the human, is that it still looks on the outside. It still lives in separation of fear, or for the most part, or for a while, as it's going through the third and fourth dimension into the fifth, fully getting through. So learning to discern yourself and let go, reset, rest, collapse, reprogram. It's a lot of work, but we did sign up for that, and we didn't come here to just get an easy little experience. We came here to experience and learn something as a soul, something that could be used in the future, building new worlds, and entering the fifth dimension. We now fully coming in as a collective.
Yes, when we remember that we raised our hands before we incarnated here to show up here at this time, I feel a deep connection to Lemuria, still dealing with, still getting over the last dredges of feeling responsible for Lemuria, and instead now moving into feeling the love that Lemuria once was. And I feel that past life connection and my higher self connection, that before I incarnated in this lifetime, I actually laughed in the face of the job, saying, that's so easy. And that's what we do here with this show every day. And, this is the heart of why all of us are doing this work, is this love work, remembering this love, surrendering to love. So when you look at, maybe we could just say this year, or maybe the last couple of years, we know that's been a real pressure cooker for people to really get rid of some of the old stuff and the old practices. And we've seen that in the collective, where when people were going through the pandemic, for example, and doing things differently, there were a lot of things that were birthed in that experience. There were a lot of relationships that either went their separate ways or they were rekindled in some ways. I saw children, teenage girls walking hand in hand with their mothers a couple of times. And that was so touching to me, where it was like people took time out to just be in this energy. So, and now I would think that because we're kind of in a vibration of that, we start to see when our vibration is lowered by looking at things that don't feel right. So when you look at this year of 2022, do you have any insights, or maybe does Archangel Gabriel have any insights on the task at hand for the great shift? Is there an overview of that message?
Okay, well, let me tune into that and bring Gabriel in to answer that question. That's even better. And I can ask you, and I can ask on behalf of the collective to connect with everybody, and do you have your permission to energy melt to connect with your higher self? And I'm speaking to all of you. Thank you. I'm just going to bring in the Legion of Angels. I'm asking them to remove any wandering spirits, anything that's not of the light from your energy field, from the collective energy field. And removing any wandering spirits, anything that's not of the light from the place you're in, from the city, from the state, from the country, from this planet, all timelines, all parallel realities, and all dimensions. Just clearing the space and allowing everybody to be in a safe environment, and a high vibration of listening and receiving messages and codes. So for 2022, the collective message, let me see here. We are facing a huge portal, like more and more individuals than before. There's waves of people awakening right and left. There's waves of new students, but also teachers stepping up, everybody in their own respect, their own rights, will go through all those stages, becoming the teacher, becoming like the law of one. So that is one of the biggest transitions we are seeing here, is that it's shifting into it's a group effort. It's like working together. It still seems like it's an individual small battles, but in the bigger picture, everybody's working on the same goal. And one thing is what the media is showing, which most people these days learning to discern from and learning to not necessarily get caught up and get angry or get reactive to it anymore. That was more of a thing of the past. The more people who awakens, they learn to separate that out in a way that it's not affecting their vibration as much as it used to. So being in a much more receiving and open frequency where I can receive these incoming codes and downloads, it's assisting the collective ascension. So the 144,000, but also like beyond that, like the energy field, all the awakened people on Earth, holding that frequency, creating that network, the fully reactivating the grid systems, is elevating the whole, even the parts who is not actively involved in it. And this year in 2022, everything has been ramped up. So it's like from day to day to day, there's really no break. Before we had a little recovery stage, or most individuals had a little time to recoup, but now it's like constant, because we now getting so far in our journey as a collective that doesn't serve to have those breaks anymore. Like it's getting stronger. A lot of people did leave. There will still be some who, a part of their contract or their sole purpose was that they would leave this way or go somewhere else to continue or start something new. But most of the people who are here now is the people who's going to be ascending as well and fully coming into the fifth dimension and above, and chose to be here, being a part of this. So that's what you were seeing. The movie screen or the holographic reality or holographic distractions is going into self-destruct in many ways, because it's becoming so ridiculous that most people are like, just stop watching it. And what that does is that people then, withdraw their energy and channel it somewhere better. And that allows for the shift to continue and to expand exponentially in ways that the human mind can't even comprehend. Because it's shifting again, is the quantum field that's shifting into a different version of, in a higher vibrational world, where we're shifting into those frequencies right now. And there will be some forerunners that's going ahead, way showers, and kind of showing the way how to get there. But that is such an accelerated pace at this moment. I hope that enlightened some of that, or put some light on it.
Yes, the word acceleration came up as you were sharing. It is an acceleration, and our training wheels are off the bike because there's no more brakes, and we can handle it and we can move through it more quickly. And I wanted to just give a perspective as well. I'm a media person. I worked in television and radio news, and I've been out of it for decades, but I can see where there's words that are used that are fearful, and you can see the human ego in the stories and the way it's written. And so it is getting ridiculous when you can look at not just the media, but it's any person who speaks ill of another. So I guess maybe I'm talking about politicians, where we're starting to see that is unacceptable. So maybe on the new rising collective, we are not going to have tolerance for people who speak ill of people. And for the most part, these are our leaders in our governments. So that's where the work to bring in divine governments is always ongoing. But do you think that, and so we can look out at the world and see a war going on right now, but this is different. It feels very different, doesn't it? Is there any insight from you or Archangel Gabriel on the collective, everyone watching what's going on, but like you said, it's getting ridiculous. So we're going to be moving away from it and deciding to take care of ourselves and our internal our internal seeing, our internal composure. Yes.
It's interesting you brought that up, because it's really, it before, much more, it was like people became agents of the matrix, so to speak. They were upholding the programming, the views, and feeding that fire, you know. But more and more people are stepping out of that now. They are, like you said, they're waking up from within. So they're choosing not to, because it doesn't feel good. And people who are in place in governments and stuff, or some are placed there to be a part of the shift and the change, and others are there to hold it back or stop it, so to speak, as part of the matrix again. And you can see that in some television, some movies as well. There's two sides to it. There's a, you know, more 5D, more expansive, that educate people what's to come, without fear, without judgment, without, you know, showing how a world could operate and could function in a perfect, aligned, golden age unity consciousness. And then at the same time, I noticed there is some shows that go so deep still that people are cool, like in the gray area, in the gray zone a little bit, still on the fence, trying to shock them. Like it's just going so deep, so they go into the trigger, the fight and flight, and connecting with something that either happened in the past lifetime or something that was fearful or could have happened, and just sitting there, holding them in a lower vibration. So there's a little bit of both going on still, but the one you see in the news is kind of falling apart, because that people are, even the weather, you know, like you can see on the weather app, is like, oh, it's going to rain today, sunshine. It's like daily it's wrong. It's like, and it must be hard to be a weather forecaster these days, you know, because it depends on what the dimensions you're in, what frequency you're in, what you are aligning with. So there's no way for them to really predict that. But it kind of like translate into the media as well, is that they're trying their best just to make a something useful, but also in the news media, the journalists and the people behind that, there's also a transformation happening in there. So people are becoming more conscious. And what that means is that they have a harder time lying, because if they do lie, then it kind of catches them in their lie, you know?
Yes, that's really very, very interesting. And so as we're here in these incredible energies, you mentioned, or Archangel Gabriel mentioned, that we're in 5D and above. Can you offer what, and then, so this is kind of hard to articulate, but the judgment aspect, this goes in, this is a program that runs so deep in all of us, because I don't think as a human, we can even walk down the street without judging another person. That program is so deep within us that as we can really feel what it means to be in no judgment, wow, what a relief to be in no judgment. So what do you say about our opinions and our belief systems when we've got the old dismantling, and I could say the word conspiracy theories that are out there? Those are not 5D. It actually, I want to be careful here, because it helps people wake up to the truth, like we're talking about. But at what point or at what level what do we do with that to really truly be 5D and above? Because there's no room for that, or that, right? There's something about neutrality in all of it, and taking inspired action. So what do we do? How do we move in this scenario?
I like the way you said that, because when it comes down to, you know, we can see that, but without being affected by it. We can still see it's on the screen, or we can decide, or we can be in multiple dimensions at the same time without being affected or reactive to it. And report, because we're working with people who that is a real issue, or that's something they're working through. So it allows us to also have a finger on the pulse without being affected or in it, you know what I mean? But really what it comes down to too is the value systems, with the judgments as well, shifting how we love, money, you know, is a tool for the matrix, you know. It's like learning not to be in that fear, you know, learning to shift your finances to maybe get rid of stuff you don't need, live within your means. But also as your value system shift and change, then you don't need as much stimulation, because you are already in a perfect vibration and frequency where that becomes your main priority. That how you vibrate, because you know that's how you vibrate and that's how you communicate into the world, and that's what you're going to receive back. So you become a magnet to that frequency, and that frequency is in unity consciousness, is in love, it's in peace, is in abundance, it's not in fear, it's not in separation. So we're not attracting those old belief systems either, or those triggers. So we are creating a new foundation. We're living in a new brand new template, so to speak, you know?
Yes, and we've heard from the Arcturians that new Earth is a frequency. And when we really feel into that, we can say that, and you were mentioning in the message that you were giving us that some will go ahead as way showers in it. And I think some are already doing that. So, wow, it really is just an inside job, and it's an inside personal responsibility, but our hearts know it, right? Would you say that every human heart has the capacity and has the knowing? It might be ridden by the head or the ego mind, but I'm going to be the eternal optimist and say that every human heart has that gateway, has that portal, has that love. Will everyone, maybe it's not our job to make sure everyone gets there, but I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
We are all aspects of the divine. So we're all part of source, which we call God, we call the divine, we call, the sun, the universe. We are products of that. We are fractions of that coming into a human, like in the oversoul. We are all aspects of the unified field of consciousness. So we broke out to have different experiences and different purposes and different missions as we're going through this mass ascension. So by not judging anyone else and allowing them to move at their pace and knowing that exactly where they're at, that's where they're supposed to be. So the challenge is for us to be okay with that, to learn to love them regardless. And that's how we shift and assist as well. So the more people come into that, then it doesn't create all these ripple effects and all this separation and all this judgment, where we come into a vibration that's unifying and expanding and helping as well. So we have to learn to identify the old triggers, the old belief systems, and where we might be feeding into that, or where we might be creating that version of them. That's the whole Ho'oponopono, is that we take responsibility for that experience, or that whatever that person was doing or bringing to you, because in a sense, that's the soul contract too. You asked that person to trigger you so you could grow, so you could see it for what it was. It's just a frequency. It's just a trigger or a blockage that you still haven't seen or haven't cleared yet. So they are actually assisting you. So right there, you are observing it from a higher perspective, and you're learning to live that way. Then everything just dissolves really fast. And it is not easy for certain people to be around you if they are very in a fixed reality or very set in their ways, because you're not giving them back that response or that reaction or that feedback they're looking for, and in the bigger picture again is that you created that too. So it's taking ownership of it and then allowing it to just become a part of the whole, and you becoming the whole. Is like you are just not just you are actually the collective as well. So you have to master that as well.
We have a whole lot of opportunity for mastery going on. And one of the things you mentioned, Ho'oponopono, and the way that things can dissolve. And I want to kind of go into both these areas, because the Ho'oponopono dissolves the frustration or the intensity of a situation. If you're angry with maybe a spouse or something, in an instant, it can shift it. I've seen this happen a number of times in the past couple of years, really profound situations with the Ho'oponopono. And at some aspect, you'd say, please forgive me. The ego mind would say, why do I have to be the one asking for forgiveness? you were the one that hurt me. But this is where it goes multidimensional. And this is the power of this is the responsibility of our power to use these tools like that to dissolve. And on another aspect of that, I've also witnessed being in a dinner with some friends, and the energy was really dualistic and polarized. And because I didn't respond in any way or get caught up in that trap, I wouldn't call it a trap. Well, maybe it was a trap. I held a frequency in my heart space, and I actually witnessed the person get up from the table and go take a walk and just be somewhere else. And when he came back, he was in agreement. And I bring this up because this is when we're talking about Lemuria, and many of us have a responsibility, a memory. We feel responsible for the loss of Lemuria. That's in so many of us listening. And so we thought that our love would alter the laggards that we let in. We brought the laggards in. We went to the Great Council of Light and said, we can bring the laggards in because our love is strong enough to shift it. Sadly, we're here in 2022 and we're still not able to get it shifted back. But isn't that fascinating that we can do it now with this understanding? Would you agree that that's what's going on with this ability to hold the vibration and be responsible for it?
Absolutely. You can change any situation. You can shift it. You can, like you did that day, you can shift into a different timeline where it's the opposite of what you were experiencing at the moment. And it is kind of a test, what you were saying too. It was not a trap necessarily. It was just to test if you would just allow it to unfold the way it used to, or you would shift it. So it is actually activating your gifts and allowing you to shine and allowing yourself to realize and fully embody those powers, and you can do that on a grand scale. And when it starts in small places, then you learn to do it many places, and then eventually take it to the big stage and doing it for whole collectives, which is just as easy if we can expand our frequency and energy to do that without allowing the human mind to block it or shut it down. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. There's a question coming in when we were talking about the heart. And, I would say that this is one of the top 5 questions that we get. The number one is, what's my purpose? One of the next ones is, how do I know when I'm in the heart? So, I mean, that may seem elementary to some of us, but it's the recipe for existence. It's where love begins. So how do you recognize or help people recognize when they're in the heart versus the head or the human ego?
Well, it's all vibration, it's all frequency. So if it's very calm, kind of like 0 point energy, and there's no distortions in it, and you're not out of body, you're not in a different place, or multiple places. If you're fully present and you're holding that vibration and you are fully engaged, like we are right now, then I can feel that heart connection. And that's the thing. If there's times where we, because of whatever we do in the physical, we get caught up in traffic or who knows what, get delayed or old programs kicking in. So getting ourselves back on track is that just sitting in meditation or breathing, like breath work, is really helpful. And Kundalini, I do Kundalini yoga. I try to do it once a week. And a little bit in the morning every day when I meditate as well, just doing some breath work to move the energy, and I'm teaching my clients to do that too, and do some chanting as well. It's all about frequency. Get out of the mind into the heart. So you're asking, how do you know? But when you feel that feeling of connectiveness with everything, where nothing is out of this, you don't want to be anywhere else. It's just that pure love is just flowing through, like you are a pure channel of divine love. And it's tingling, it's vibrational, it's keep you warm but not hot, like it's just really golden, beautiful, amazing. And the voice, or the tone of your voice and the vibration of your voice is also reflecting that, and transmuting that into the world. And you can feel that. You can feel that in somebody else's voice too. If they're speaking the truth from the heart, from love, from, what's best, from what's honoring the higher timelines, it's in sync. It's in a perfect pitch vibration. And you can feel that in your heart. It's like a music instrument. So it's not thoughts, it's more of a feeling kind of thing you're getting tuned into and learning to navigate from.
Yes, and sadly, in our incarnations here, we've been taught to totally disregard the heart. And so that's why before we incarnated, like I remember myself laughing at the task, because it's like, that's all you have to do is be love. Ha ha, yes, we can do that. And so remembering that makes it easier. And it's also, I do see a world. I do see that world. I'm going to cry right now because I see that world of people in the heart. And it's kind of a crazy, wild, authentic world, but there's no judgment there. And that's why we've been saying for so long to hold your vision of New Earth. And so we support and help others do this as well.
I want to jump in there if you don't mind, because you mentioned Lemuria several times and Atlantis and other, in the last 20,000 years or so, 26,000 years, we've been going through a lower third dimensional experience as humanity, and there's been a lot of loss, a lot of trauma, a lot of that now as people are raising in vibration and working on themselves and getting rid of some of those protective mechanisms that was on the heart space and other places, on the chakra system, breaking those seals. I see with a lot of clients, there's past lifetimes coming up to be released, sometimes from Lemuria, Atlantis, and it could either be really high and welcome home kind of greeting, connecting, or it could be coming in and death and rebirth, like where there was energy stuck. I had one yesterday actually where there was energy from a collective, like one person was high up and was violently put off the throne or whatever, at the time. And that created a big pocket of people who also suffered from that and lost their lives. And that would never really fully heal. So we actually, in that session, we allowed that to happen, allowing the burn of the ship to take off and allowing that to go back to spirit and release and lift that heavy, dense energy of the person that she didn't even know she had, because it was hidden under all those layers. So as you raise in vibration, each layer, each dimension or frequency you master, there's some reshuffling, there's some clearing, there's some reprogramming taking place, depending on what and the same with Lemuria, and healing those timelines. And what that does, it allows the collapse of them too, so we can clear it, because we're not taking them with us. We are moving forward. We are releasing all the past, the lower frequency. We're not holding on to it any longer. And then we do that by, acknowledging it, but also like forgiving it and setting it free and showering it in love, high intense love, just inserting it in there and allowing it to heal it and bring it into the light.
Yes. Well, beautiful work that you do, and you do sessions with folks. Well, let's have some questions from our Zoom audience. For those who are on our Zoom audience, you can raise your hand, and there's a chat box here. I first want to go to Destine. Destine, I'm going to allow on Zoom, I allow you to talk. Hi, Destine, do you have a question?
Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Destine.
Hi, Peter.
How are you?
Oh, wow. I am going through exactly what you're saying. I do feel like I'm dealing with maybe a timeline or something, but what it feels like in this very moment, it feels like I'm stuck in a space and I'm with an aspect of me, but this aspect is not in alignment to what I want in my reality.
Okay.
And I guess I'm wondering if there's something I can do to help this aspect to get her on, in alignment with me, or what she needs, because I don't want to be in this space, and she tends to let things in that I really don't want to let in anymore.
Okay. Well, let me tune in. Do I have your permission to energy melt and connect with your higher self?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I'm just going to bring in the Legion of Angels. I'm asking them to remove any wandering spirits, anything that's not of the light from your energy field, the place you're at. Just tuning in here. Energy melting with you and your higher self. So there's some old timelines that's playing in. There's a past that's playing in. There's a hierarchy or belief system that's still somewhat intact, that believes that the distribution of power is somewhat uneven. But again, it's a belief system. It's based on an old
Paradigm.
frequency, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yes, old paradigm. And that's what it comes down to here, that if there's any kind of separation, and that's what I feel like there's a part of you that's holding back, that doesn't really know what to do, or doesn't give yourself permission to step through or speak up. But the way in the past you would speak up was not be in a constructive way that would serve the frequency you are in now, or you want to serve. And that's what creates that little fearful stepping into the unknown. So it's the more of the fear of the unknown I'm feeling here, getting so conditioned to things being a certain way that we kind of hold on to it because we found safety in it, or found a safety net in, even though it might be a dysfunctional, that belief system. So it's allowing yourself to step out of that, allowing yourself to let go of who you were, or you might still believe you are, and connecting with the higher aspect of yourself who's been waiting for you to reach that point. Because really, like, when you are in the creator space and you're creating all the experiences, and this is your movie, and you are the writer and you are the main actress, then you can also change the story. And that is what it's encouraging you to do. And that's the test that you set up for yourself, that now is playing out, or is coming up to the forefront, is that you can't avoid it, because it doesn't matter where you turn, it seems it's there, or it's over there. It's like you can't avoid it, and it won't stop till you just say fine and step through it, basically. If that makes sense.
Yes, that makes so much sense. Thank you so much, Peter. I so appreciate you. Much love.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you. Yes, Peter has Archangel Gabriel through Peter has a great way to really identify our energy and help us shift. And it's hard to pinpoint how that happens. It's just wonderful because we get it and we resonate with it. And it's coming through our higher self. Yes. Yes.
Let me jump in there for a second, because something we talked about a little earlier too, is that when you were at that dinner party, but when I work with clients too, and when you do and other people do, it's not just me. When one thing is we are talk therapy, and we're tuning in and we're channeling, but at the same time, when you hold that higher frequency, we are shifting that vibration for them. We're assisting them in doing it. So yes, whatever's coming through is one thing, but at the same time, I'm collapsing that timeline. I'm shifting it too. You know what I mean? So you can assist people in facilitating that for them, or do something they are not capable of doing yet. And that's why it feels, you can't really put words to it, but it's a vibration, it's light language, it's frequency.
It's light language, it's frequency. That's a great explanation of what's going on there. And it illustrates our responsibility with the power of love, with our own energy, and how we can truly hold that space. And I think I can feel our whole group like in a neutral zone right now and radiating this love. And I'm going to cry again, because that's why we raised our hand to say we can do it. Yes. So this is it. We're doing it. And it feels like it's getting easier. Like we're almost at 100 monkey effect, right? Where enough people get it that it's just going to make everything faster. Like the guy who runs the 4-minute mile, once he broke that barrier, so many others were able to break that barrier and hit the 4-minute mile. So this is surrendering to love, or holding the vibration of love. And when more and more people are waking up to it, it's beautiful, because I do sense that as well. So here's a good question. Thank you, Jeffrey. Jeffrey asks, can you define in consciousness selected word symbols what you're referring to when you say heart?
Well, heart is the soul. It's really the seat of the soul. It's the purity. It's the light. It's the divine blueprint. of what we are capable of, but it's at the same time it's the creation powers as well. It's we are the creator, so it's the purest of the alignment of the sacred geometry, where everything is in the primest state you can imagine. Is that a good? I think that's a good description. That really what that means is that we are a embodiment of the divine. We are allowing that divine flow to come through us, and we are honoring that. Our ethics, everything is in alignment with that. Our belief systems and our words, our frequency, our vibrations, our everything. You know.
Yes. And that, Jeffrey, that is just the tip of the iceberg for you, my friend, as you explore that more deeply and truly understand what's going on there. I've actually seen a wormhole through my heart. I was in my sacred temple of the heart. There's a vision that you can go and do with that. And I looked up and I saw, it was in a therapy session with someone that says, look up, and what do you see? I saw a wormhole where every single person we've ever passed in the universe had an alcove an alcove of the heart. We were all connected in that way. So we're all connected through the heart. And anyway, we connect to our higher self and the inner wisdom through the heart. And you're right. So Jeffrey, good on you asking that question. May you find the answer that resonates with your heart, your beingness, that you can share with the rest of the world. Here's another question. Thank you, anonymous attendee. When people say love, all I hear or interpret is yada, yada, yada. How can one act on advice to love? See, this is the old paradigm of our human experience of love versus the cosmic Christ consciousness connection of love. So what would you have to say to that, Peter? All I interpret is yada, yada, yada.
Well, it is the conditional love versus the unconditional love. It's that it was used or misused for centuries to gain power, to control, to gain material objects, so forth, you know, but also used for fear. So it's like it's the polar opposite of what the cosmic or the galactic or the etheric heart frequency and energy is all about. So if we're still hearing or listening or working through the senses of the old, then there would be some rejection to that, because it was like, I don't want to hear that. I'm not ready to shift that. I'm not ready to accept that as a fact yet. Even though there might be some little aspect of it or a little fragment in the back of the mind or deep in the heart that's saying, well, it feels good, but I'm not sure how to get there yet. So I'm still afraid of even tapping into that, because I had my heart broken so many times, or every time I connect with the heart, then it's all that old stuff coming out that hasn't been cleared yet, that hasn't been forgiven, that hasn't been processed and released. So we have to go through that before we have to ascend. We have to go through the heart. We have to open up our heart space. We have to clear all that. And really what that means too is taking our power back, because it was in the past, it's like we gave that power away. So if we're still doing that, then identifying that and taking that responsibility and taking that power back, that is the key to fully embody your heart space again. And then you can start hearing and listening and feeling and creating differently. And the more we do that, then the heart space is not just ours, it's all of ours, the higher we go.
That is the world that I see. I do see it, and it is fun and wild as people live authentically with no judgment. And okay. And
I want to jump in there too and say no judgment towards her either, of course, ever. Is that we holding everybody in love. You know what I mean? That question, and here in the jada, is that, yes, that might be what you're hearing, but you're hearing it from one frequency. If you heard it from a different frequency, a different vibration, then you might hear actually what was being communicated at that time. And it could also be the person who is, delivering it to you, that's in so much distortion that it just sounds like crap,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really good point. Very, very good. Well, let's go to another person on our Zoom audience. We're going to go to Vanetta or Vanita. Vanita, hello. You can unmute and say hi.
Hello, hello. My goodness, what a fabulous conversation. I just wanted to share a beautiful synchronicity. I usually connect with my team first thing in the morning. And just today, Archangel Gabriel showed up and I'm like, oh, well, hello. Nice to see you and welcome. And here I am in a session
Awesome.
where that's a great connection. So I'm just enjoying this conversation so much. Thank you so much. So my question is, I've been told that there is some deep sadness and some anger in my heart. And I wanted to get some guidance today to, first of all, find out what exactly it is and what I need to do to heal it so that I can move forward in alignment and in my power.
Okay, wonderful question. Well, thank you for being here. Do I have your permission to energy melt and connect with your higher self?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm just going to bring in the Legion of Angels and Archangel Gabriel and connect with your higher self. And I'm asking the Legion of Angels to remove any wandering spirits, anything that's not of the light from your energy field, allowing us to see, to answer the questions, allowing the vibration to energy melt with you. Okay. I'm gonna tell in the order I'm seeing it, not necessarily because it's linear, but really what it is, that there is a block in your life, there's a block in a close relationship, very close to you, that's still there's a little resentment for that not moving, that not shifting, that not doing anything, apparently, because that's what you are seeing. And that reflects back to a pain within you, because it really is a mirror, is that we can sit in a place of being blocked or not moving or not making the necessary step for a long time till the higher self start gently push you forward. And I can see there's a lot of, in reality, there's a lot of signs popping up, Gabriel being one of them. There's other numbers and angelic frequencies coming in, gently trying to remind you and nudge you and enlighten you and activate you at the same time. So really what it shows up here is that the fear, you want to get out of the fear. The fear is the fear of the unknown, but also like the part of you that's holding on to the fear because you know what that's like, because you're a little afraid of what's going to happen when this, I'm feeling that close relationship is being ignited, then it could go in any direction, and you have to learn to be okay with that. But you also have to learn that you actually created this obstacle and this experience for yourself to master, to allowing yourself to step into where you're in a flow where you will be okay regardless, because it's not about you. You know what I mean? It's about you, your reception to it, your response to it, your holding on, you're observing yourself. That's what it all comes down to, if that makes sense. I feel like there's more here. The sadness. There's some inner child coming up here as well. There's some old scars that also, and again, it's part of that old programming. It's like the ego self is really a program as well that just keep playing. So I feel too that when you come in and you feel that sadness, it's just like old records that just keep playing again when it gets triggered. So when you can learn or want to activate and say, you're not my thought form, leave now, then that will go away. And anything connected to that, anything that makes you feel unworthy, and you feel that doesn't make you feel whole, not feel loved, collapse those two. And when you do, then you clear that slate. which allows for you now to bring in the solution, bring in the light, which comes with the guidance as well. And brings you into alignment with your path where the solution is already part of that path. But you have to learn to trust. You have to learn to connect with that, knowing that you already planned this ahead of time. Your higher self is watching, the angels are watching, and you can't pull the past with you any longer. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. That does make sense. If I can just ask you, and I don't know if you can answer this, whether I think I'm still trying to figure out like who the person is. Is it a family or is it a non-family member? Are you able to share that with me, or?
It's a family. It's somebody close to you.
Okay. Okay.
Do you want to know more, or what are you?
I mean, I would love to know more if you're willing to share.
You probably know yourself though, right? You could probably feel.
I think I'm still, even within family, I still feel like there are two people. So I'm like, well, who is it? So I can just do the work.
Well, that's a good question, because really it doesn't matter if it's one or the other.
Okay.
What matters is you.
Okay.
Because otherwise the mind just make up excuses. It's like, okay,
Sure.
I need to know which one, or I need to, pick the right one, or, like look at them as one.
Beautiful. Okay, I get that. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate all of this insight.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yes, I do want to say in my session that I had with Peter, he totally picked up on something maybe that I wasn't even aware of. And it's just fascinating to be able to see it from the perspective. So we're glad that it helped you, Vanita. Yes. And here is something else. I'm going to unmute Jeffrey, our question of love. And Jeffrey is, I'm sensing that he's feeling a little, we get frustrated. We look out at the world and we're like, that's not right. But that is inside us, right, Peter? That's inside us. And we have to reckon with that. For example, I was all upset with fracking for years. And then I learned how to deal with that energy inside me. And I don't have a problem with fracking. And I'm seeing that, anyway, I'm not going to go into that too deeply. It's density, but my vibration is different because I've dealt with it. And it's not a cop-out. So I want you to speak with that, and then we'll talk to Jeffrey.
It's really about transmuting the energies like you did. You're shifting the perspective. You are not allowing that program to entrap you, so to speak. You're identifying it for what it is a part of that fixed reality. And as you know, when we release any connection or any resistance to it or reaction to it, then magically a solution is being created. It could be very unexpected ways that it's maybe too expensive to do that way now, or it's shifting too. And that is interesting too, because as we shift individually in vibration and live in a different timeline than the past, we might not have the same experience as many others have. Like through this pandemic, this, COVID thing, I had one experience in my life, in one timeline, in one vibration I was in and has been in and still am in, without fear, without that direct involvement with it. And I was not affected by it, hardly at all. Mm-hmm. Kind of like moving to a different country, living somewhere where it's very different, like there's not the same rules, or at least not in your reality. Mm-hmm. So you're not affected by it the same way. And that's the thing, when we clear those inner framework, that inner resistance, that need to fight back and feeding the fire, then it dissolves and it goes away. It finds something else, or it tests you in maybe other ways, but then you collapse that too. So you're learning how to identify and observe yourself and your reactions to it, and you allow yourself to just create something better.
Beautiful. All right, let's go to Jeffrey's question. Hi, Jeffrey. You can unmute yourself when you're ready.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Hi there, how are you?
Good, thank you. Very nice hearing you.
Thank you. What is your
What is
question?
coming up? Well, I really like the way that you've addressed my concern, but I always keep feeling like, okay, well, that wasn't quite the answer. So I have to refine, I have to fine tune my question and bring
Okay.
it down to see if I can bring it to the crux of what my concern is. So I hear that you were coming from a space during all of the craziness, the pandemic craziness and the fascism, where you were free of it. You were above it. You weren't attached to it. You didn't feel a need to change it. Or is it more true to say that for you it did not exist at all?
It's a little bit of both. Is that I didn't allow it to control my life. I didn't allow it to trigger me in ways that, understandably, for many, that was the case for them. But I was in a vibration where I could hold a vibration that didn't allow that to drain my life force energy. I didn't allow it to bring me down to a place where many realities that I cleared would re-emerge. They would come back up. That's the thing about frequency and vibration and dimension, is that we can raise ourselves to a higher vibration, but if you're still being triggered, we can drop into a vibration where old fears and old programming can still get to you then, because then they start showing up again.
Okay.
And that's a part of that refining and refining your energy field and how you can hold that, and also without judgment, hold that frequency and that vibration without any judgments for the collective. You know what I mean? Like not judging people for having that experience, not allowing them to, and honor that they chose, in a sense, to have that experience. You know what I mean?
Of course, you're familiar with the expression, what matters is one's intention. And I have this sense, now I may be psychologically twisted on this and you can help straighten me out. I have this sense that a lot of me responds with resistance to the lies of the capitalist fascist structures, because not even so much concern for myself, because I have in many ways removed myself from identification with it, but my concern is about everybody else. I hate to see them having to go through the same crap that I went through when I was growing up.
I thank you for bringing that up too. And what it comes down to again is that we release, we allow, we shift our vibration, our frequency from fighting the old or fighting whatever it is, and then channeling into creating the new. You know what I mean? I've been there. I've been where you at. I've been in that frequency where I was focusing on getting all the latest intel on this and that, and and it was kind of feeding the fire at the time, till I cleared it, till I learned to become better at it, and then shifting my aligning with my mission, which at that point became to hold the light and hold it steady and assist the collective as that's kind of like that burning out, you can say. But the point being is that we can either focus our energy on fighting the old, or we can create the new. So by being an agent of change, then we focus all our energy on that, and that's a very different frequency and vibration, and it reflects and it mirrors vibrationally in our lives and in our life experience as well. And that's a part about stepping into the fifth dimension or higher frequency, a new world, is that we learned what we need to learn throughout those stages where we were clearing. And then now we move into the next. And all these incoming solar flares as well, they're assisting with that. The people who were very fixed in their opinions or OCD, or everything had to be a certain way, or very dense energy, are also being worked on by their spirit guides, by the angels. So these frequencies coming in is also preparing and opening them up gently, little by little. So it is a Mandela effect as well, like Lorraine was talking about earlier too, is that, the 100 monkeys, like it's just, it starts somewhere. More and more of us are stepping out of that rat race, and we're holding vibration high. And when enough people do it, we can carry the whole. And then it shifts really fast. It's kind of like the bell curve. You reach a certain point and then it shifts, if that makes sense.
Right. So I guess I'm one of the ones who who is to hold some kind of awareness of attention. And of course, part of attention is tension. There's this focus there of waiting for all of these people to stop supporting a system that is constant lying. Can we at least just stop the lying and quit pretending that we can build a civilization out of endless lies?
Yes, and I get that too, and I just want to jump in there a little bit, because what it really comes back to is ourselves. If we honor what we want, then we are creating a new wave. So it's important that we don't lie to ourselves, we don't lie to anyone else, that we are a pure expression of the divine, and that leads or creates space for expansion to happen. And again, I have no judgment for anyone who is any other vibration or frequency or doing anything else. Everybody have a divine purpose, and everybody is exactly where they need to be. So what you're doing right now, I do feel like there's a little bit of resistance in you because you're a little frustrated that you're still there, you're still fighting it. But at the same time, you are assisting others. You are showing somebody who is fully unaware that you bring it to their attention, or you bring it to their viewpoint. But it's important that as much as you can, you come from divine love. You don't come from anger. You don't come from fighting. You know what I mean? Because then we're just feeding that old structure, that old programming. I hope that was helpful.
Well, when you say love again, I guess there's many different levels that it expresses through and expresses from, because I feel it is coming from a deeper place of love that isn't visible to a lot of people on the surface.
We have to do the inner work to experience that. So yes, and it is, we talked about earlier too, the value system have to shift how we love others, but it's not conditional. We don't tit for tat, all of that, like we have to learn to look at everything differently. We have to learn to keep our mouth shut sometimes, and allow somebody to even express something very unconscious, but by not feeding it, you're not feeding the fire. So that's also a challenge, learning to do that. And then you're not a target anymore. It becomes less and less a part of your reality. And it's not ignorance. It's just like you're focusing your vibration on something, creating something bigger, and you are assisting that momentum that's going in the collective right now. So focusing on the love, bring more of it to you, and that allows you to heal too, allow you to see it from a higher perspective, where you're not confronted, you're not resistant to it, you're not reactive to it. So you can see that there's a purpose for everything, that this is a script, this is a play, you can say, it's a matrix, and the only way out is that we have to vibrate above it in a frequency where that's not a part of our reality any longer, and then we release that. And that's something the human mind can't comprehend. So if it's in fight and flight, or if it's aggravated, if it's angry, it's not in a vibration to fully do that yet. So that's what we're working on with the heart space, letting go of that resentment, letting go of the anger, letting go of the resilience to fighting the old,
A question, please, then. So for someone such as you who has moved above and beyond this separative perception of reality, from your perception, all of these problems of human history and government and war have already been done and resolved. Is that accurate to say?
For some, there's still people living in that reality where that history is still unresolved. So as more and more are coming through those stages of releasing and going through the levels of discovery in the awakening journey, where there's the connection with the multidimensional self in the past lifetimes, where that will be coming up to be healed as well. So depending where we at, and yes, I'm in the highest vibrations possible most of the time, but it's a daily thing. I also feel the collective energy, so then I work on that and try to shift that, and that's a different life experience. So it's not all, flowers and sunshine, you know what I mean? But we make it into flowers and sunshine. We shift our perspective. We step aside, we step out of the self and into the whole, and become a part of the change as our mission into the collective consciousness, where we all in this together. So the more who can join us in this vibration and this frequency, the faster it accelerates, and the more of us can then play together too. I hope that was
Thank you
helpful.
for your presence. Thank you for your presence and your patience.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming in.
Yes, Jeffrey, thank you. And I would say that you are, and Peter, help me out here, because of this awareness that you now have around this, 70% of the work is done. I would say the rest is noticing the triggers and clearing it.
That
Yes.
feels very accurate. Yeah. And there will, kind of like the bell curve too, you know, there will be certain aspects that's going to hold on a little longer and be the last one to shift. We're not fully there yet, but we're getting there. Yeah,
we're getting there. And remember, Jeffrey, you raised your hand tall and high. Yes, you did.
Thank you.
Raised your hand high and tall to incarnate here at this time. So hang in there. And one thing that I love to share is what you were saying, Peter, about we can go into the side where we can just resist it and look at it and say, that's bad. Or we can look and say, okay, what does my heart, what does my higher self want me to do? What are all the skills that I have in my life? And what do I love to do? And it's not about the money, but what does the world need based on my skills and all the love that I have? And you will be presented with solutions that will utilize all your skills and talents, and you'll be abundant from it, and you'll be helping the planet. There's so many ideas that come from that. For example, one thing in my life personally is I'm working on something for returnable, reusable to-go containers. Restaurants, instead of using all the plastics and things, there's new systems for how we deal with the trash on our planet, and how we love our earth so much, and how we help others. And so thank you, Jeffrey, for your question. It's stimulated a beautiful part of our conversation today. Okay. Well, I want to go to Lordell as our last question, but before we get there, Peter, let's talk about personal sessions with you. You've got 2 options for personal sessions. This is what you do day in and day out, and how lucky we are that you've got time for people to come in with you one-on-one like this, because again, it's so special. I felt my light body just connected. I felt so expansive from our time together. So share with us your personal sessions.
Well, everybody come with their own set of blueprint experiences and identities and what they want to work on or what they feel guided to deal with, you know, and we, you know, connecting with that inner guidance, but also bringing that knowledge through asking questions, tuning into that specific day, as you noticed, you know, what's going on in your life. And you had a big shift happening with a producer leaving you, you know, like, so that's important to be in that present moment and really tune into the frequencies at hand, because it really, everything is happening in the present moment. So it's imperative that we work in that space, what's going on. And so picking up on that and ask the right questions, allowing the client to open up as much as they're, you know, willing to or ready to, you know, is a lot of times, and also make them feel safe. I always, you know, make sure that they know that I don't share this with anyone. This stays between us, you know. Allows people to gently, sometimes not right away, but depending on how trusting the person is, you know, to open up and allow those hidden ghosts or whatever in the things in the closet to come out, to be released. Anything we're embarrassed about, guilty about, or been avoiding for such a long time, or it could have been some kind of abuse. It could have been, I had my own fair share of that, and I released it myself. I worked through it. So it's helpful to assist others when you've been through that part of the journey yourself, because you kind of like, you become a guide, you can show them how you did it. And that's a common for many light workers and empaths too, is that we did choose a fair amount of challenges throughout our lives. And just the awakening part, especially where we lost everything at some point, many of us, and have to learn to shift our perception, our value systems, how we receive things, like you mentioned earlier, making sure that we are financially taken care of, and trusting, because it doesn't come the way it is. Not it's now it's in a non-linear form, that we don't work hard to get it. We actually become a magnet to it, and we just keep doing what we came here to do regardless, and just trust it will come, and then it does come. But the human aspect of us is just fighting that at first. So learning, and that's the direct guidance I'm providing as well, giving them things they can actually work with, because it's really not about, I don't want them to become dependent on me. It's about them or anyone to activate those powers within yourself, so you become independent again. So you start to listen and trust to you and that inner guidance coming through. And a lot of that is not just the talk therapy and the tuning in and the channeling, is also the vibrational work, as you experience, going in with the light body and align it, all the chakras in the same frequency, and bringing in, releasing anything that's dense or distorted energies, bringing in those higher divine blueprint activations, and allowing that reboot of the body, where it's in the vibrations, it can receive and it can release so much faster. So there's not all these blockages.
Yeah. Okay. That was a good explanation. I remember now what that was. After we had our initial discussion, the healing session that came after that was, I still go back into that. Like, I'll wake up or I'll just check in at a certain part of the day, and I will go back into that healing session, and I feel so connected. That's like the angels and our guides continuing to do that work, right? Yeah, it's really special. And I do want to say that you did create such a safe space and you picked up on certain things that it just felt very safe, and it allowed me to really go deep. It's a little personal that, we don't have to share that here, but it's really powerful and it's profound. And so just one session with you, 60 minutes, is a beautiful experience that will continue to be felt in one's life, that we can go back to it and feel those energies. You used a lot of sound, some bowls, some rattles. It was just an exquisite experience. And then you've also got numerous sessions. How would it be beneficial for someone to do more than one session with you, 3, for example?
Keeping up that momentum. If you feel that inner guidance to, treat yourself to a life change, and I know this is just 3 sessions. Yes, it's going to make a big impact on your life, and it's going to create a good foundation for shift and change, and get you well on your way. That's really why I also named it like connecting deeper with your higher self, learning to listen, learning to honor, learning what that means, because a lot of times that's the misconception. What is my higher self even, so not only being guided, word by words, but also by vibrations, allowing that higher self to come in through, and learning to, like you mentioned too, that, you feel safe. So find that safe space within yourself, where it is somebody have to, we have to be acquainted with it. It's almost like a breadcrumb that have to be activated, so we know what to look for. Otherwise we kind of like dabble around in the dark. So it's reconnecting you with that pure flame within. And that's what the 3 sessions, I feel like, is making a big impact on people, getting them, some who's more advanced and can jump right to, to do it by themselves. They will be able to utilize that. Others will feel empowered to do more sessions with somebody else or myself, or start studying themselves, but they absolutely won't stop. You can't walk back or you can't stop when you started. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely. There's no going backwards here. There's only transformation and going forward, and watching how our life unfolds when we tune in such a way. Again, that's the world that I see. I see everyone connected to their higher self. And if all you and I and everyone listening and watching do on this planet is connect ourselves to the higher self and help others do it, we've done our job. We have done the job. And that's beautiful.
Yeah, and also what we talked about earlier too, that you, I, me, many of us have a different experience, so those sessions also open a window into that frequency and into that life experience. So give you a sneak peek in where you can feel like, oh my God, this is so different. I have many clients who stay with me for a long time, who just like, I don't want to say addicted to it, but it's like, they just see that expansion, they see that connection with source, and seeing how that's benefiting everything in their life, just their decision making, their choices, everything. It's just start flowing because they're now in that flow. They're not allowing anything to get in the way by staying in that higher vibration at all times and becoming able to do that themselves.
Yeah. Great work. This is the work we're doing. And it's our vibration that we carry. And that's how the world is shifting. They say that it's our vision of new earth, and it's what we create in our imagination in the ethers. It's created there first. So what we're seeing here on our earth is just, again, the old, that its time is up. And so we really have to be diligent with our vision of new earth and go forward and create it from there, from this vibration. And that's why I'm grateful for everyone watching and listening, holding that vibration, and also helping others to do it too. The link for Peter's beautiful sessions, I highly recommend them. It's right here on this webpage. It's in the Zoom audience box, and it's in the video description of the video you're watching now. So sign up, check it out. You will love it. I guarantee it. And so let's do one last call. This is Lordell. Lordell, it's your turn. You can unmute when you're ready with your question.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi there, how are you?
Hi, Lauren and Peter. Thanks so much for taking my question.
You're welcome.
My guides have told me that I have a lot more work to do. And so I was wondering how to evolve more and align perfectly with all that is, so that I can do this work that I'm here to do. I am a light worker, but my guides tell me I have so much more to do.
Okay, thank you for a good question. Do you have your permission to energy melt to connect with your higher self?
Of course, yes.
Thank you. I'm just going to bring in the Legion of Angels. I'm asking them to remove any wandering spirits, anything that's not of the light from your energy field, your place, your home, country, state, this planet, all timelines, all parallel realities, all dimensions. Just clearing the space. The first thing that coming out, you might think that you're out of the spiritual closet, but there's aspects of you that's not. So one thing is that you're fully shifting there's still like a little duality, meaning that you have different hats for different relationships. There's certain people you feel like you could be open with. There's some that you're holding back a little bit because you're a little afraid of standing out. And it's all fear-based. So by you not looking for permission or signals from the outside, or any kind of recognition, or you know what I mean, but shifting back into your heart space and align with who you are now, not who you have been as a light worker in the past, even because you now also been activating deeper and deeper. It's a crystalline activation within you. The rainbow codes are coming through. You can feel like there's really deep divine masculine and divine feminine energies merging together, where before you were operating in a more masculine world in your close-up environment, where there was a purpose for that, but now you're shifting into becoming a more whole version of you. So you have to allow that version to be seen. That's what's holding you back, so to speak. But also, that's also a part of your mission to go forward, is that you will allow others to do the same, because a lot of people, even people that you don't know about, are watching you. They are watching you from a distance. Even the one you think are set in their ways, they're still watching. They can feel it. They can feel the vibration. So by you allowing yourself to step into this next unknown territory and allow yourself to show up, and you doing what you feel guided to do in that moment, and allowing that divine masculine and divine feminine, which is, it's a very different than the old human masculine and feminine. It's coming from that unified field of consciousness where on the other side in spirit, we are both, we are neither, you know what I mean? Like we are spirit. So it's important that you connect with that. You know what I mean? Let go of you being a woman, let go of being a man in past lifetimes, you know, like you have to bring that all into this present moment now that you're aligning with, and you start embodying the divine spirit, the Holy Spirit, if that makes sense.
It does. What is this great work that I am here to do?
You are alive. So it starts with within, it starts with you taking full ownership of it, that you shift out of that old, again, identity of who you were, even as a person, as a, you know what I mean? All the labels that you got attached to you or aligned yourself with throughout your whole life, let that go, because you're now stepping into a more true version of yourself. And the more you do that, the more of that old is going to fall off, and it's going to allow for room for the new to come in. I do feel that there will be a transition in a sense, you know, you will go through a couple steps where you're not going to find the perfect fit right away, but it doesn't matter. The point is that you are actually showing up differently. So you're allowing that creativity to find a, you can say, blue ocean. You're finding a niche that nobody else is doing. You find a little place where you can bring light in where nobody else is doing that. And it actually turns out to be very lucrative as well, but not money, not being your motivator, of course, but it actually, because people are in a vibration where they would gladly pay you for your services, but you have to go out of your comfort zone to reach that. What that also entails too is that you have to connect more with the community. There's a bigger community around you that's in a higher vibration that will be much more stimulating for you. That also is going to open up those pathways, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. The human mind can't really comprehend because it wants to know, it wants to see, but you have to allow yourself to trust. You have to allow yourself to go with the feeling, because otherwise you slow down that process.
Right. Right. I fully understand, because they took me out of my comfort zone and moved me to another state already that I've been in for the last 2 months. And now I'm like, okay, I did what you asked. I'm here. What next?
Try to visualize what, if you could have it any way you want, you know, how you, I can feel like you could do readings. You are doing readings. So what about putting that on, you know, do that on a bigger scale. Try to put yourself out there. Do anything you can to make yourself seen. That's the first step.
And that's what I haven't done. Okay. I hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, Lordell. You are light and you are here to do great things, sister. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. You know, our vibration, I'm buzzing all over my body. We are lifted into higher frequencies. I truly hope everyone is lifted into higher frequencies. If you're still feeling any resistance, just come get higher with us in these frequencies and use the resistance as, or the triggers, I guess, as gateways into the work that brings us to great peace. As we close our show today, Peter, please share on that topic or that note.
Thank you. Yes. You know, it's about observing ourselves, our behavior, and like you said, our triggers, that there's a hidden message within all of that. They're actually there to teach us, they're there to show us, to guide us to what's holding us back. And when we shift the perspective, then it's empowerment. It's not something hurting us. It's not something out to get us. So that's very open, it's very loving, and it's kind of silly in a sense too, that we can laugh about how we were before, or how that whole program or that belief system operates, that we can bring light into it that way as well. It's like not taking it so serious, not taking ourselves or our old self so serious, because that's the old programming that creates that. Allowing ourselves just to bring light into it and just go with the flow, and sometimes just sit with it for a little bit, not being so reactive. And then it's like, oh my God, why am I even getting so wound up about this? Worked up.
Yes, and I'd like to close with a comment I heard from a guy who experienced 3 near-death experiences. And he said, what if nothing's wrong? And when we truly get that, you could say, what if everybody's right and nobody's wrong? Or not to go too deep in the duality there, but when you truly get, what if there's nothing wrong, you will feel tremendous peace when that is fully understood in the body, because we are here to be this love, and don't let anyone take it from you. So thank you, Peter, for this beautiful time today. Thank you to Archangel Gabriel and to everyone watching. You are the light, and we thank you for radiating your light to our entire planet. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Peter. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, Lauren.
Bye, guys. Thank you for listening to this quantum conversation, and thank you for dancing with us to the cosmic heart. As we raise our own vibration, we raise the vibration of the planet. This show is dedicated to you and all awakening hearts, as we are here to shine our bright light and amplify our love. Access all quantum conversations, special offers from our guests, and online healing retreats by visiting acoustichealth.com. I'm Loren Gailey, and from my sacred heart to yours, I honor your magnificent love and light. We leave you now with music from the universe. Music literally created by the universe, as musical notes were assigned to mathematical equations. The result is this beautiful music, available at acoustichealth.com. Namaste.